Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we're digging deep beneath the glass and steel of modern London to a time of sandals, senators, and swords. Imagine standing in the heart of the city's financial district, surrounded by towering skyscrapers. But what if I told you that just 13 feet beneath your feet, archaeologists have uncovered the heart of a city that existed almost 2 millennia ago? Not just any building, but a Roman megastructure, the seat of power for the city they called Londinium. This isn't just a pile of old stones. It's a direct link to the very birth of London, found buried beneath a construction site at 85 Gracechurch Street. The discovery of this monumental Roman basilica is being called one of the most significant archaeological finds in London for decades, and it completely reshapes our understanding of the city's early days. So let's travel back in time and explore the story of Londinium's grand past, a story of conquest, destruction, rebirth, and now rediscovery. To truly grasp the importance of this basilica, we first need to understand how its city came to be. Our story begins in 43 AD, when the Roman Emperor Claudius launched a full-scale invasion of Britain. The Romans were masters of logistics and strategy. They needed a base of operations, a hub for trade and military movement. They found the perfect spot on the north bank of a wide river, a place where it was narrow enough to build a bridge, but still deep enough for their large ships to sail from the continent. Around the year 47 AD, they founded a settlement there and gave it the name Londinium. For a little over a decade, this new town boomed. It wasn't a military fortress, but a bustling commercial center, a melting pot of native Britons, Roman officials, soldiers and merchants from across the vast empire, from Gaul, from Hispania, from the German frontier. It was a frontier town, but a prosperous one. That prosperity, however, came to a sudden and violent end. In the year 60 or 61 AD, a rebellion swept across the province of Britannia. It was led by Boudica, the formidable queen of the Iceni tribe, a warrior queen seeking vengeance against the Romans for their brutality. Boudica's army marched on the undefended and wealthy city of Londinium. The Roman governor was away, and the city was evacuated. What followed was a massacre. The historian Tacitus tells us the city was sacked, and its inhabitants were slaughtered. Archaeologists have confirmed this grim account, finding a thick red layer of burnt debris from this period, a scar in the earth that testifies to the day Londinium was razed to the ground. But the Romans were not an empire to be deterred by a single defeat. They crushed Boudica's rebellion and immediately began to rebuild. And they didn't just rebuild. They built bigger, better, and with a clear message. This was Roman territory, and they were here to stay. It was during this period of grand reconstruction, between the years 78 and 84 AD, that the newly discovered basilica was constructed. This wasn't just another building, this was the statement piece. Building this massive structure was a way for the Romans to stamp their authority on the landscape, declaring Londinium as the new capital of the province. The basilica itself was the very heart of this new, powerful city. So what exactly was this megastructure that lay hidden for so long? When we hear the word basilica today, we mostly think of a type of church. But in Roman times, a basilica was a completely secular building. It was the nerve center of public life, a combination of a courthouse, a town hall, and a stock exchange, all under one enormous roof. The scale of the one found at Gracechurch Street is simply breathtaking. The foundations alone tell a story of immense ambition. They are over 3 feet wide and plunge 13 feet deep into the London clay, a massive trench filled with layers of flint, brick, and ragstone, all designed to support an immense weight. On top of these foundations rose a 2-story building estimated to have been over 130 feet long and 65 feet wide. Its roof would have towered nearly 40 feet high. To put that into perspective, the building's footprint was almost the size of a modern Olympic swimming pool. This was one of the largest buildings in Roman Britain at the time. Inside this grand hall, the life of the province was decided. It housed the law courts where disputes were settled and criminals were tried. It contained the administrative offices for the city's governors and magistrates. And its main vast open space, the Great Hall, was a meeting point for merchants to strike deals and for officials to conduct the business of the empire. What archaeologists believe they've found are the remains of a particularly important part of the basilica, the tribunal. This was a raised platform, a stage, from which the city's rulers would make speeches, dispense justice, and announce edicts. Standing on that tribunal, you were literally and figuratively above the crowd, projecting an image of unquestionable authority. The level of preservation has been described as extraordinary. After nearly 2,000 years, these foundations are so intact, they give us a crystal-clear outline of the building. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence found was a simple roof tile. But this wasn't just any tile. It bore an official stamp, which translates to the City of London Authority. It's the ancient equivalent of finding an official government seal, definitively proving that this was a public, civic building of the highest importance. This basilica wasn't an isolated monument. It was the anchor of the Roman Forum, the city's main square. Imagine what daily life was like in its shadow. For the average inhabitant of Londinium, life was tough. Most people rose with the sun and worked long hours in workshops producing pottery, glass, and leather goods, or selling wares in the bustling marketplace. They lived in relatively small, cramped, timber-framed houses. But as they went about their day, the basilica and forum complex would have dominated the skyline. It was a constant, awe-inspiring reminder of the power, wealth, and organization of the Roman Empire. This was where justice was done, where the rules were made, and where the economic pulse of the city beat the strongest. This new discovery helps us connect the dots between other known Roman sites. We knew about the amphitheater, whose remains lie beneath the Guildhall, where gladiators would have fought. We knew about the Temple of Mithras, a mysterious cult sanctuary discovered under the Bloomberg headquarters. Now, with the location of the original forum and basilica confirmed, the map of Londinium snaps into focus. We can see the civic and commercial center, the entertainment district, the religious sites. It transforms our view from a collection of interesting finds into a coherent urban plan. Interestingly, this first grand basilica had a surprisingly short life. It was in use for only about 20 years. But this wasn't a sign of failure. It was a sign of incredible success. Londinium was growing so fast and becoming so important that by the turn of the century, around 100 AD, this basilica was demolished to make way for a second one. And the second one was even bigger, a true behemoth that was one of the largest north of the Alps. It served the city for the next 2 centuries, as Londinium reached its peak. In the 2nd century AD, the city's population may have swelled to as many as 60,000 people, a vast cosmopolitan metropolis. But empires and their cities do not last forever. By the 3rd and 4th centuries, the Roman Empire began to face immense challenges, from internal political turmoil to increasing raids from external tribes. The economy stagnated. In Londinium, the grand public buildings began to fall into disrepair. The city's population started to shrink. The final blow came in the early 5th century. With the empire crumbling, the Roman legions were withdrawn from Britain to defend other frontiers. With its military protection and administrative structure gone, Roman Britain effectively ceased to exist. Londinium was largely abandoned. Its magnificent buildings, including the Second Great Basilica, were left to the mercy of the elements. They were stripped for materials, collapsed into rubble, and were gradually buried by soil and time, becoming a lost foundation upon which medieval and eventually modern London would be built. For centuries, the heart of Londinium was nothing more than a memory, a ghost beneath the streets. Which brings us back to today, and the incredible moment of resurrection. In a city as ancient and dense as London, new construction projects often provide a unique opportunity for archaeology. Before the new 32-story skyscraper could be built at 85 Gracechurch Street, a team of archaeologists was brought in to see what lay beneath. They knew they were digging in the area of the Roman city, but what they found exceeded all expectations. The discovery of these perfectly preserved basilica foundations is a once-in-a-generation find. And in a wonderful turn of events, the developers of the new tower, Hirchton Properties, have embraced this discovery. Instead of seeing it as an obstacle, they see it as an incredible asset. They have announced that they will